There's a place in New York where mothers rock their babies to sleep behind bars, where women who committed the worst crimes are sent to. This place has stood for over 120 years, hidden in the quiet hills of Westchester County, just 40 miles from the bright lights of Manhattan. Its real name is Bedford Hills Correctional Facility for women, but the women who live there, they just call it Bedford. And inside those walls are some of the women who committed the most shocking crimes in American history. If you're ready to discover the dark secrets behind these prison walls, hit that subscribe button right now. Drop a comment below telling us, have you ever heard of this prison before coming across this video? Let's start with a woman who seemed perfect. It's March 10th, 1980, a cold night in Purchase, New York. Inside a beautiful home, a man lies dying on his bedroom floor. He's been shot 4 times. His name is Dr. Herman Tarnauer, and he's one of the most famous doctors in America. He created something called the Scarsdale diet that made millions of people lose weight. But tonight, someone wanted him dead. The woman holding the gun is 56 years old. Her name is Young Harris. She's not a criminal. She's not poor. She's not uneducated. In fact, she's the complete opposite. Young Harris runs one of the fanciest schools for girls in America. She's the head mistress of the Madeira School in Virginia, where rich families send their daughters to get the best education money can buy. Zhang graduated from one of the best colleges in the country. She was smart, elegant, and respected. So why is she standing over a dead body with a gun in her hand? The answer is simple, but the story is not. Love. Zhang and Dr. Tarnauer had been together for 14 years. But he had a secret. He was also seeing his younger assistant, a woman named Lynn Triforce. Zhang found out. She was heartbroken. She was angry. She was 56 years old, and the man she loved was replacing her with someone younger. That night, Zhang drove from Virginia to New York. She brought a gun. When police found her, she told them it was an accident. She said she went to Dr. Tarnauer's house to kill herself, not him. She said they struggled over the gun, and it went off 4 times. The problem? The police found extra bullets in her pocket. Why would someone bring extra ammunition if they only wanted to kill themselves? In 1981, Young Harris went on trial. The jury had to decide, was it murder or was it a terrible accident? 8 days later, they had their answer. Guilty. Young Harris was sentenced to 15 years to life in prison. And the place they sent her? Bedford Hills Correctional Facility for women. New York's only maximum security prison for women. But here's where the story gets interesting. Because Young Harris didn't just sit in her cell feeling sorry for herself. She looked around at the other women in Bedford Hills and saw something that broke her heart. Mothers, separated from their children. Some of these women had babies, some had young kids. And because their mothers were locked up, these children were scattered across the state, living with relatives or in foster care. Many of them never got to visit. The prison was too far away. The families were too poor. The kids were growing up without their mothers. Young Harris decided to do something about it. She started teaching. She helped other women get their high school degrees. She organized the prison library. She mentored young inmates who reminded her of the students she used to teach at the Madeira School. Then she did something even bigger. Zhang wrote 3 books while she was in prison. She sold the books and made $100,000, but she didn't keep the money. Instead, she created something called Children of Bedford, Inc. It was a charity that gave scholarships to the children of women locked up in prison. The head mistress who had killed her lover became the woman who gave hope to children whose mothers made terrible mistakes. Young Harris suffered 3 heart attacks while she was in Bedford Hills. In 1992, after 12 years in prison, she was so sick that she needed major heart surgery. The governor of New York, Mario Cuomo, made a decision. Just hours before her operation, he granted Zhang clemency. She was free. Zhang lived for 20 more years after her release, but until the day she died in 2012 at age 89, she never changed her story. She always said the shooting was an accident. She never admitted to murder. Was she telling the truth? Or was she a killer who refused to confess? We'll never know for sure, but Jan Harris wasn't the only prisoner inside Bedford Hills with a shocking case. Not even close. This brings us to the next female inmate on our list. Let's go back to 1992. Long Island, New York. A 17-year-old girl walks up to a house in a quiet neighborhood. She rings the doorbell. A woman answers. Her name is Mary Jo Buttafuoco. She's 37 years old, married with 2 kids. The teenage girl tells Mary Jo that her husband is having an affair with her younger sister. Mary Jo is confused. They talk on the porch for about 15 minutes. Then the girl pulls out a gun and shoots Mary Jo in the head. The bullet lodges in Mary Jo's skull. She collapses on her front steps, blood pouring from her head. The teenage girl runs away. Somehow Mary Jo survives, but the bullet can't be removed. It's still in her head today. The shooting left her with permanent facial paralysis and hearing loss. Half her face doesn't work anymore. The girl who pulled the trigger was named Amy Fisher. She was 16 when she met a 36-year-old auto mechanic named Joey Buttafuoco. He owned a car repair shop. Amy brought her car in to get fixed, and Joey did something terrible. He started a sexual relationship with a 16-year-old girl. At 16, Amy couldn't legally consent. What Joey did was statutory rape, but Joey didn't care. He kept seeing Amy, and according to Amy, Joey would complain about his wife. He would say things that made Amy think he wanted his wife gone. So Amy decided to do it herself. After the shooting, Joey lied. He said he barely knew Amy Fisher. He said there was no affair. But then the police found hotel receipts, credit card records, proof that a grown man had been sleeping with a teenage girl. Finally, Joey admitted it. In October 1993, he pleaded guilty to statutory rape. His punishment? 6 months in jail. He served 4 months. Amy Fisher? She got a much harsher sentence. She pleaded guilty to first-degree assault. The judge sentenced her to 5 to 15 years. She was sent to Bedford Hills Correctional Facility for women. She was just 18 years old. But something strange happened while Amy was locked up. The case exploded in the media. Newspapers started calling her the Long Island Lolita. Television crews camped outside the courthouse. And then, in December 1992, something unprecedented happened. 3 different TV networks made 3 different movies about Amy Fisher, all in the same month. NBC made 1. CBS made 1. ABC made 1. Famous actresses played Amy. Drew Barrymore, Alyssa Milano, Noel Parker. Experts estimate that over 100 million people watched at least one of these movies. Amy Fisher became one of the most famous criminals in America. Late-night comedians made jokes about her. Tabloid magazines put her face on the cover every week. And the whole time Amy sat in her cell at Bedford Hills, watching her life become entertainment. But here's the twist nobody expected. Mary Jo Buttafuoco, the woman Amy shot in the head, did something shocking. She forgave her. Mary Jo started advocating for Amy's release. She went to Amy's parole hearing and spoke on her behalf. She said, "She needed to be punished. She tried to kill me, but Amy Fisher is not a Lolita. This is a sick girl." In 1999, after 7 years in prison, Amy Fisher was released. She was 24 years old. Mary Jo and Amy even met up years later on a TV show. They hugged. They talked. Mary Jo had realized something during all those years. The real villain wasn't Amy. It was Joey. He was the adult. He was the one who manipulated a teenage girl. He was the one who destroyed his own family. In 2003, after 22 years of marriage, Mary Jo divorced Joey. She later wrote a book called Getting It Through My Thick Skull. In it, she called Joey, not Amy, the real sociopath. Today, Mary Jo is remarried and living her life. The bullet is still in her head. Amy Fisher has 3 children and has tried to move on from her past. But their story raises a question. Who was really the victim? The woman who got shot? Or the teenage girl who was groomed by a grown man? Now, let me tell you about another woman in Bedford Prison who did something so evil, even hardened criminals were horrified. Her name was Stacey Castor, and she had a problem. Actually, she had two problems. Their names were Michael and David, and they were both her husbands. In January 2000, Stacey's first husband, Michael Wallace, died suddenly. He was only 38 years old. The doctors said it was a heart attack. Everyone was sad, but no one was suspicious. Young people sometimes have heart attacks. It happens. Stacey mourned. She cried at the funeral. She raised their two daughters alone. And then, in 2003, she met someone new. A man named David Castor, who owned an air conditioning company. Stacey started working in his office. They fell in love. They got married. For a couple of years, everything seemed fine. Then, on August 22, 2005, Stacey called 911. She said she found her husband David dead in their bedroom. He was naked, lying face down, there was vomit everywhere, and on the nightstand was a glass of bright green liquid. The police investigated. At first, it looked like suicide. David had been depressed, Stacey said. They'd had an argument on their second wedding anniversary. Maybe he couldn't take it anymore. But when the medical examiner tested David's body, they found something strange in his system, something that didn't belong there. Something called ethylene glycol. You know what ethylene glycol is? Antifreeze. The stuff you put in your car. David Castor had been poisoned. And it's not a quick death. It takes up to 72 hours. It's incredibly painful. Your kidneys shut down. You vomit, you suffer. Someone had fed David antifreeze, and the only person who had been with him was his wife, Stacey. The police started digging deeper. They found Stacey's fingerprints on the glass of antifreeze. They found a turkey baster in the trash with David's DNA on it and traces of antifreeze inside. A turkey baster. She had used a turkey baster to force-feed her husband poison while he was unconscious. But then the police thought of something else. What about Michael Wallace, the first husband? The one who supposedly died of a heart attack. In September 2007, they dug up Michael's body. They tested it. Ethylene glycol. Antifreeze. Stacy Castor had poisoned both of her husbands. She was a serial killer. Before we reveal what Stacey did next, let me ask you this. Do you think prison can change someone like this? Can a mother who poisoned her own family ever feel remorse? Drop your thoughts in the comments. The police were closing in on Stacey. She knew it, so she came up with a plan. A plan so twisted, so cruel, that even the judge who sentenced her said he'd never seen anything like it in 34 years. Within an hour, Ashley was unconscious. She was dying. Stacey then sat down at the family computer and typed out a fake suicide note. She made it look like Ashley had written it. In the note, Ashley confessed to killing both David and Michael. She said she was sorry. She said she couldn't live with the guilt anymore. Then Stacey went to bed. She was going to let her own daughter die. But Ashley's younger sister, Bree, came home and found Ashley unconscious on the floor. She called 911. Paramedics rushed Ashley to the hospital. They pumped her stomach. They saved her life. When the police read the suicide note, something didn't add up. The note had a weird spelling mistake. In 4 different places it said anti-free instead of antifreeze. The police went back and listened to Stacey's earlier interviews. And there it was. Stacey herself had said anti-free when talking about the poisoning. She had cut herself off mid-word, claiming she was about to say antifreeze, but stopped herself. But the suicide note had the exact same mistake, 4 times. That meant Stacey wrote it. In February 2009, Stacy Castor was convicted of murdering David Castor and attempting to murder her daughter Ashley. She was sentenced to 51 years to life in prison. The judge's words were chilling. In my 34 years in the criminal justice system as a lawyer and a judge, I have seen serial killers, contract killers, killers of every variety and stripe. Mrs. Castor, you are in a class all by yourself. Stacey was sent to Bedford Hills Correctional Facility for women. She always maintained her innocence. "I did not kill Michael Wallace. I did not kill David Castor. I did not try to kill my daughter," she said. In June 2016, 7 years into her sentence, Stacy Castor died of a heart attack in her prison cell. She was 48 years old. She never admitted what she did. She never apologized. Ashley, the daughter Stacy tried to murder, survived. She has to live with the knowledge that her own mother tried to kill her and frame her for murder. But Stacy's story raises another dark question. Some people think she killed one more person. Her father, Jerry Daniels, died in February 2002 while in the hospital for a minor lung problem. Stacy brought him an open can of soda on the day he died. His body was cremated before anyone could investigate. Stacy became the executor of his estate. Did she kill her own father too? We'll never know for sure. Bedford Hills Correctional Facility has held some of the most notorious women in American history. But it's also a place of second chances, a place where babies are born, where mothers learn to be better parents, where education happens, where women try to rebuild their broken lives. In the next part of this story, we'll meet 2 more women whose crimes shocked the world. One was a revolutionary who helped rob an armored truck and left 3 men dead. The other was a fake heiress who scammed her way into New York's elite society and became a Netflix sensation. Their stories will show you that Bedford Hills isn't just about punishment. It's about transformation, redemption, and the question we all want answered. Can people really change? Stay with us. Now, let me take you back to the 1960s. America was angry. Young people were protesting the Vietnam War. They were marching for civil rights. They believed their government was evil, and some of them decided that words weren't enough anymore. They wanted revolution, real revolution, the kind with bombs and guns. One of these young revolutionaries was a woman named Kathy Boudin. She wasn't poor. She wasn't uneducated. In fact, she came from one of the most educated families in New York City. Her father was a famous civil rights lawyer. Her uncle was a respected journalist. She grew up in Greenwich Village, one of the coolest neighborhoods in Manhattan. She went to Bryn Mawr College, one of the best schools in the country. But Kathy Boudin believed the American government needed to be destroyed. In 1969, she became a founding member of something called the Weather Underground. It was a group of young radicals who decided that peaceful protest wasn't working. They started bombing government buildings, police stations, the U.S. Capitol, the Pentagon. They called themselves freedom fighters. The government called them terrorists. On March 6, 1970, something went terribly wrong. Kathy and her friends were in a townhouse in Greenwich Village making bombs. They planned to blow up a military dance at Fort Dix in New Jersey. Soldiers would be there. Their dates would be there. People would die. But while they were building the bombs, one of them exploded early. The entire townhouse blew up. 3 of Kathy's friends were killed instantly. The explosion was so powerful that body parts were scattered across the wreckage. Kathy survived. She was upstairs taking a shower when the bomb went off. She ran out of the burning building wearing nothing but a towel. A neighbor helped her, gave her clothes. And then Kathy disappeared. For the next 11 years, Kathy Boudin lived underground. The FBI was looking for her, but she had changed her identity, changed her appearance. She was a ghost. But being a revolutionary didn't pay the bills. And in 1981, Kathy got involved in something that would finally bring her down. October 20th, 1981. A Brinks armored truck pulled up to a mall in Nanuet, New York. Inside the truck was $1.6 million in cash. The guards were just doing their job, moving money from the mall to the bank. They had no idea they were being watched. Kathy Boudin and her accomplices had planned a robbery. They were working with members of something called the Black Liberation Army. The plan was to steal the money and use it to fund their revolution. Kathy's job was to be the decoy. She sat in the front of a U-Haul truck, looking innocent. Just a woman moving some furniture. Nothing suspicious. Her accomplices attacked the armored truck. They shot a guard named Peter Page, killed him. They shot another guard named Joseph Trombino. He survived, but he was badly wounded. The robbers grabbed the money and jumped into the back of Kathy's U-Haul truck with their automatic weapons. Kathy drove away. But the police were already responding. They set up a roadblock and stopped the U-Haul. When the officers approached, Kathy put her hands up. She looked scared. She told them she was just a driver. She didn't know what was happening. The police believed her. They lowered their guns. That's when the back of the U-Haul opened up. Kathy's accomplices came out shooting. 2 police officers were killed, Edward O'Grady and Waverly Brown. They died on the side of the road. 2 other officers were wounded. Kathy tried to run, but this time she didn't get away. The police caught her. In the back of the police car, Kathy was silent. She wouldn't talk. She wouldn't answer questions, but the evidence was overwhelming. 3 men were dead. The money was in her truck. Witnesses saw everything. Kathy Boudin was facing 3 murder charges. If convicted on all of them, she'd spend 75 years to life in prison. She'd never get out. Her lawyers made a deal. Kathy would plead guilty to felony murder and robbery. In exchange, she'd get 1 sentence, 20 years to life. She took the deal. And just like John Harris, just like Amy Fisher, just like Stacey Castor, Kathy Boudin was sent to Bedford Hills Correctional Facility for women. But Kathy had something the others didn't. She had a 14-month-old son named Chessa. When Kathy was arrested, little Chessa was taken away from her. He went to live with 2 of Kathy's old friends from the Weather Underground, Bill Ayers and Bernardine Dorn. They raised him as their own. For the next 22 years, Kathy lived behind the walls of Bedford Hills. But instead of giving up, she did something remarkable. She decided to become the person she should have been all along. Kathy became a model prisoner. She studied. She worked hard. And then she did something incredible. She became the first woman in New York state history to earn a master's degree while in prison. But she didn't stop there. Kathy looked around at the other women in Bedford Hills and saw something that broke her heart. Many of them had AIDS. In the 1980s and 1990s, AIDS was spreading through prisons. Women were dying, and nobody was helping them. So Kathy and some other inmates created something called the AIDS Counseling and Education Program, or ACE. They trained prisoners to counsel other prisoners about AIDS, to educate them, to comfort them, to help them die with dignity. The program worked so well that prisons all across America started copying it. Kathy also brought college courses back to Bedford Hills after the government cut funding for prison education. She developed parenting programs for imprisoned mothers. She taught women how to be better moms even though they were separated from their children. She wrote articles. She co-authored books. She became an expert on how to help incarcerated parents stay connected to their kids. In 2003, after 22 years in prison, Kathy Boudin was granted parole. She was 60 years old. The families of the murdered police officers were furious. They said she should never have been released. They said she was a cop killer who got away with murder. But others saw something different. They saw a woman who had transformed herself, who had spent 2 decades helping others, who had shown genuine remorse for what she'd done. After her release, Kathy went to Columbia University and earned a doctorate degree. She became a professor. She taught social work. She worked with the Columbia Center for Justice to help other formerly incarcerated people rebuild their lives. Her son Chessa, the little boy she left behind, grew up to be a lawyer. He went to Yale. He became a Rhodes Scholar. And in 2019, he was elected District Attorney of San Francisco. Kathy Boudin died in May 2022 at age 78 after a long battle with cancer. Her son was with her. So was her life partner, David Gilbert, who is also involved in the Brinks robbery and was released from prison in 2021 after 40 years. So here's the question. Did Kathy Boudin deserve a second chance? 3 men died because of what she did. 3 families lost fathers, husbands, sons. Does doing good things in prison erase that? Can someone who helped kill 3 people ever truly be redeemed? There's no easy answer, but that's what makes Bedford Hills so complicated. It's not just about punishment. It's about whether people can change. And if they do change, what do we owe them? Now let me tell you about the most unusual woman to ever walk through the gates of Bedford Hills. She didn't kill anyone. She didn't shoot anyone. She didn't poison anyone. She just lied. A lot. Her real name is Anna Sorokin, but the name she used was Anna Delvey. And for several years she convinced New York City's richest and most powerful people that she was one of them. Anna was born in Russia in 1991. When she was 16, her family moved to Germany. Her father was a truck driver who later owned a small heating and cooling business. They were middle class, normal, nothing special, but Anna wanted more. She wanted to be rich. She wanted to be famous. She wanted to live the kind of life she saw in magazines. So in 2013, when she moved to New York City, she invented a new person. She started calling herself Anna Delvey. She said she was a German heiress with a trust fund worth $60 million. She said her father was a diplomat, or maybe an oil baron. The story changed depending on who she was talking to. Anna dressed in expensive designer clothes. She stayed in the fanciest hotels in Manhattan. She ate at the best restaurants. She tipped with $100 bills. She hired personal trainers and took private jets. The problem? She couldn't actually afford any of it. Anna was paying for everything with bad checks and fake bank statements. She would check into a hotel, stay for weeks or months, and then leave without paying. She'd go to expensive restaurants with friends, order $400 bottles of wine, and then her credit card would mysteriously not work. Her friends would end up paying. She created fake wire transfer documents to make it look like her money was coming from overseas. She forged bank statements to show she had millions of dollars. She convinced a bank to let her overdraw $100,000, and she kept $55,000 of it. But Anna didn't just scam banks and hotels. She scammed her friends. One of her friends was a woman named Rachel Williams, who worked at Vanity Fair magazine. They met at a fancy Manhattan nightclub. They became close. And in 2017, Anna invited Rachel on a trip to Morocco. It was an amazing trip. They stayed at a resort that cost $7,000 per night. They had a personal trainer, a videographer. Everything was first class. There was just one problem. When it came time to pay, Anna's credit cards didn't work. She promised Rachel she'd pay her back. Rachel believed her. She charged $62,000 on her own credit cards to cover the trip. Anna never paid her back, not a penny. Rachel went to the police. And finally, the NYPD started investigating Anna Delvey. In October 2017, Anna was arrested in Los Angeles. The police discovered she had scammed approximately $275,000 from banks, hotels, and individuals. In 2019, Anna went on trial in New York. Every day she showed up to court wearing a different designer outfit. The media loved it. They took pictures of her clothes. They wrote articles about her style. Anna was becoming famous, and that's exactly what she wanted. The jury found her guilty of 8 counts of theft and fraud. She was sentenced to 4 to 12 years in prison. And where did they send her? Bedford Hills Correctional Facility for women. But here's the twist. While Anna was in prison, she sold her life story to Netflix for around $320,000. Netflix made a TV show called Inventing Anna, starring Julia Garner. It became one of the most watched shows on Netflix. Anna Sorokin, the fake heiress, became a real celebrity. From her prison cell, Anna served about 3.5 years at Bedford Hills and another facility. In February 2021, she was released on parole, but just over a month later, she was arrested again. This time by immigration agents. Anna had overstayed her visa. She wasn't in the country legally. She spent 19 more months locked up, this time in immigration detention. In October 2022, she was released to house arrest with an electronic ankle monitor. Here's what I want to know from you. Do you think Anna Sorokin deserved prison time? She didn't hurt anyone physically. She just lied and stole money. Should that really put her in the same prison as murderers? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Today, Anna lives under house arrest in New York. She's not allowed on social media, but she still gives interviews. She still talks about her plans. She still acts like she's famous. And in a weird way, she is. People are fascinated by her. How did a middle-class girl from Germany fool so many rich, powerful people? How did she get away with it for so long? Anna's story is different from the others we've talked about. She's not a killer. She's not violent. But she ended up in the same place as women who murdered their husbands, shot people in the face, and robbed armored trucks. What does that tell us about Bedford Hills? What does it tell us about our justice system? So what is Bedford Hills really like? It's not just a place of punishment. It's also a place of hope. Remember how we mentioned mothers rocking babies to sleep behind bars? That's real. Bedford Hills has the oldest prison nursery program in the entire United States. It started in 1901, and it's still running today. If a woman is pregnant when she comes to Bedford Hills, and if she hasn't been convicted of a violent crime, and if she has no history of child abuse, she might be allowed to keep her baby with her for up to 18 months. These mothers live in a special part of the prison. They have their own cells with cribs. There's a daycare staffed by other inmates who are trained to care for babies. The mothers take parenting classes every day. They learn how to feed their babies, how to comfort them, how to raise them. Why would a prison do this? Because research shows that children who stay with their mothers during the first year of life have better outcomes. And mothers who get to care for their babies are less likely to commit crimes again after they're released. It's a second chance, not just for the mothers, but for their children too. Bedford Hills also offers education. Over 100 women have earned college degrees while incarcerated there. There are GED programs for women who never finished high school. There's vocational training in cosmetology and horticulture. And remember the AIDS counseling and education program that Kathy Boudin helped create? It's still running. It's been copied by prisons all over America. Women at Bedford Hills have saved lives by educating other prisoners about AIDS and HIV. There are also programs for women who ended up in prison because they were victims themselves. Many women at Bedford Hills were abused by their husbands or boyfriends. Some of them fought back and ended up killing their abusers. Some are there because they were forced to commit crimes by violent partners. In 1985, Bedford Hills held special hearings inside the prison where women could talk about domestic violence. It was the first time anything like that had ever been done. Those hearings led to new laws that help protect abuse victims and recognize that sometimes violence is self-defense. But Bedford Hills isn't perfect. It's still a maximum security prison. Women still live in cells. They still can't leave. They're still separated from their families. Some women spend decades there. Some die there, like Stacy Castor did. The average woman at Bedford Hills is 35 years old. About 45% are African American, 30% are Hispanic, and 23% are white. Most of them are there for violent crimes or drug offenses. Most of them come from poverty. Many were abused as children or adults. These aren't movie villains. They're real people who made terrible choices or were born into terrible circumstances or both. We've told you about 5 women today. Jean Harris, the head mistress who shot her lover. Amy Fisher, the teenage girl who became famous for shooting her lover's wife. Stacy Castor, the mother who poisoned 2 husbands and tried to poison her own daughter. Kathy Boudin, the revolutionary who participated in a robbery that left 3 men dead. And Anna Sorokin, the fake heiress who scammed her way into New York's elite. All of them ended up in the same place, Bedford Hills Correctional Facility for Women. Some of them found redemption. Jean Harris helped children of incarcerated women. Kathy Boudin became a professor and advocate for criminal justice reform. Amy Fisher was forgiven by the woman she shot. Some of them never changed. Stacy Castor died in prison still claiming she was innocent. And some of them, like Anna Sorokin, turned their crimes into celebrity. But all of their stories teach us something important. Women commit crimes for complicated reasons. Sometimes it's love. Sometimes it's money. Sometimes it's politics. Sometimes it's survival. And the question we have to ask ourselves is this: what's the point of prison? Is it just to punish people? Or is it to help them become better? Bedford Hills tries to do both. It locks women away from society, but it also gives them tools to change. Education, therapy, parenting classes, job training, a chance to be with their babies. Does it work? Sometimes. John Harris and Kathy Boudin both left prison and did good things with their lives. Amy Fisher rebuilt her life and raised a family. But other women leave Bedford Hills and commit crimes again. Some never leave at all. There's no perfect answer, no easy solution. Prison is complicated. Crime is complicated. People are complicated. But one thing is clear: the women of Bedford Hills are more than just their worst moments. They're daughters and mothers and sisters and friends. They made terrible mistakes. They hurt people. They destroyed lives. But they're also human. And as long as Bedford Hills exists, the question will remain: do we believe people can change? And if they do change, what then? If this documentary made you think, if it made you feel something, then we've done our job. Hit that like button. Share this video with someone who needs to see it. And subscribe to our channel, because we're going to keep telling stories that matter. Stories that challenge you. Stories that show you the world isn't as simple as good people and bad people. The world is full of complicated people making complicated choices. And sometimes the only way to understand them is to listen to their stories. Thank you for watching. And remember, behind every prison wall is a human story. Some of those stories are dark, some are hopeful, but all of them are real. And that's what makes them worth telling.